Hello, listeners. Been wondering how you can help the show? Probably not. But here are 5 things you can do. 1. Subscribe. Support the show by clicking the subscription link in the show notes. 2. Review on iTunes, on our website, www.afraidofnothingpodcast.com, or on whatever app you listen to. 3. Donate. When you go to our website, click the cute coffee cup icon, or in the show notes, click the subscription link. 4. Share. Sharing really is caring. Tell your friends and even your enemies to check out the show. 5. Watch. Wait a minute, it's a podcast, not a movie. Actually, it's both. Check the show notes to find out where to watch the documentary. You can also rent it on Prime Video. That's it. Oh, one last thing. Enjoy this episode.
In a world where nothing is known, nothing is certain, reality is not real. Wake up! Be afraid of nothing. I'm Bob Heskey.
Robert.
The host with the ghost.
This is my podcast, based on my paranormal documentary, Afraid of Nothing. Each episode, we talk to people who see life and the afterlife through a different lens. Join me.
Who is this large man? And what's he doing in our bedroom?
As we lift the veil and open our minds to see beyond our eyes lie. This is Afraid of Nothing.
Search for the darkest, scariest places on the planet, and that's where you'll probably find Joni Mayhan. Joni's a seasoned paranormal investigator and the author of 20 paranormal books, including the best-selling paranormal true story, Bones in the Basement, Surviving the S.K. Pierce Haunted Victorian Mansion, as well as Signs of Spirits, When Loved Ones Visit, and most recently, When Ghosts Are Near. Joni also operates Haunted New Harmony Ghost Walks and Investigations in the town of New Harmony, Indiana, where she currently resides. Her intrigue regarding the unknown frequently leads Joni into dangerous situations, ones others often leave untouched. Joni has attended over 300 paranormal investigations, including many haunted hotspots such as Waverly Hills Sanatorium, Rolling Hills Asylum, Gettysburg, and the Lizzie Borden House. Check out her website, www.jonimayhan.com. That's JONIMAYHAN.com. Joni, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bob. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's like deja vu, really, for us, because we tried this a couple days ago, and it was going swimmingly, and then we were just talking. It was either the internet or solar flares that broke up, but it was a great interview. So we're back at it again today.
Well, that's okay. I consider that one a practice drill, so we've got it down pat now.
Yeah, and it's a full moon out tonight, so this one should be extra good.
Absolutely.
You know, what really kind of intrigued me when I first, there's a lot of great stuff. Afterwards, since I discovered you, I've been reading a lot of you and checking into a lot of your stuff. But the first one was a book called The Soul Collector. Everyone goes through a dark period in their life, but with you, it just happened to be paranormal. And it happened when I think you went to the Rutland prison and encountered a dark entity. Do you mind telling us what happened?
Absolutely. Well, Soul Collector is kind of a cautionary tale for paranormal investigators, especially people who are sensitive to spiritual energy, people that can feel ghosts. Because when you go out to places like that, where there's some negative energy lingering, and you never know what's going to follow you home. And that's exactly what happened to me. I was at a very dark period in my life. I had just gone through a pretty tragic breakup for me. I was in a 2-year relationship, and I got dumped very profoundly. And I was pretty depressed. One of my friends said, "Hey, let's go out and go ghost hunting tonight. That'll get your mind off of things." And since that point in time, I really caution people not to go out and do paranormal investigations unless you're on the top of your game. If you're not feeling well, if you're depressed, or you have anything weird going on, just stay back and don't do it, because your energy's down and your spiritual boundaries are down, and you're much more fragile and vulnerable to spiritual possession. And that's what happened to me. So the Rutland prison camps is the foundation and some ruins left over from a working prison in the middle of Massachusetts in Rutland State Park. And people walk their dogs through there. It's when I used to live in the area, we snowmobiled up through there. Nobody would really think of it being a paranormal hotspot, but we discovered through going up there that there were a lot of ghosts lingering. And the night in particular that I went and I picked up the Soul Collector, it was very active, and we were getting crazy EVPs all night. Like I said, "Why are you here?" And a male voice came through and said, "Following you." And I asked, "What do you want?" And he said, "I want you." And it was just the same voice, and it was just kind of creepy, and it was just giving me just a little bit of a chill. I'm clairaudient, which means I hear the sound ghosts make. And for me, it's similar to ear ringing. Sometimes it verges on static. And I had just come into my abilities. I had been that way all my life, but I had finally felt comfortable and free to pursue it. And it was like a new toy to me. So I would go out and investigate, and I would hear the ear ringing. And if I tuned into it, I'd start getting information and mind pictures and just details about who was there. It was a lot of fun at that point, and I wasn't even thinking about the fact that I had no backup plan. What would happen if something followed me home? I just never thought about it. That's exactly what happened, and I started hearing the ear ringing at the prison camps while we were walking around, and then I got in my car to leave, and I could still hear it, so I knew something was with me. I got out and I saged my car, because at that point in time, I thought sage was ghost be gone, that would remove all the ghosts. And, I now know that that's not the truth. But I didn't get rid of it, got home and still felt it, was still hearing it. And I lived alone, and I had to walk into this dark house, and I just felt on edge. The minute I walked in, I felt like somebody had broken into my house. I looked in every closet, under every bed. I was just convinced somebody else was there. But what I was actually feeling was what I brought in with me. I had this very negative attachment for about 3 months, and it just got worse and worse as time went on.
So when you were ghost hunting at the Rutland prison camp, were you the only sensitive there? Was there anyone else that was picking up on this dark entity?
One of my friends is a sensitive, and she was there as well. Sandy McLeod actually started working on her abilities at the same time I was working on mine. So we would use each other for validation. Often we would go to locations and we would write down what we felt and not say anything aloud, so that we wouldn't compromise each other's impressions. And then we'd compare notes, and we were always so accurate with each other. She was feeling the same thing I was. We were definitely feeling something negative there that we didn't need to be messing with. It had us both on edge all night.
Now, it was a 3-month period. So you came home that first night, you felt like, it's a great way of putting it, that your house was broken into. How did it dawn on you that this entity had attached itself to you? Who did you go to for help? And why do you call it the Soul Collector?
Well, I knew something was there, and I did not like the way it felt, but I was so new to this that I really wasn't able to really interpret what I was feeling. At the time, I was involved with a paranormal group, and the leader of this group was a very talented psychic medium and also a third generation Salem witch. So during Thanksgiving that year, I didn't have anywhere to go because my family is all in Indiana and I was in Massachusetts. They invited me up to Maine to have Thanksgiving with them. And the minute I walked up and knocked on the door, she opened the door and her jaw dropped and she said, "We need to talk." That's never a good feeling,
Yeah.
especially coming from somebody, that's paranormally in tuned. And she pulled me aside and she said, "You have something attached to you." She said, "He is not good." She said, I see him whispering in your ear all the time. And she said, "Can you hear him?" And I'm like, "No, thank God." She said, "He's a soul collector." And she said, the reason I know that is because when I look at him, I see him surrounded by hundreds of other people, souls that he's collected, basically ghosts that have people that have died. And instead of allowing them to cross over, he's grabbed onto them and was using their energy to fuel himself and make himself more powerful. And she said, and he wants to add you to his collection.
Quick question, Joan, if you don't
Yeah.
mind, just interject real quickly. Why would he pick you? Is he looking for people that have a certain energy? Obviously, you vibrate a little higher than most people. Did he look for people that have certain, because he's kind of an energy absorber. Was he looking for someone like you that had your type of skills that would feed him or?
Yeah. I wish I really knew the answer to that question because I've had numerous attachments over the years. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you. I've had 2 this week.
God.
There's something about my energy that they find irresistible. Someone said it's like rocket fuel. And I said, wow, I wish I could tap into that because I could use some rocket fuel. But they said my aura is very white, very pure. And there's something about me that draws in people that need help. And it also draws in energy suckers, basically negative entities, just you name it, and I get it. I'm learning more about how to protect myself, but at that point in time, I had no idea what to do or how to get rid of this. I was kind of at the mercy of the psychic medium, and she was promising to help me, but I think it was kind of a little bit above her abilities as well. Like she kept trying and nothing would happen. And in the meantime, I'm dealing with this and she's filling my head full of really awful images. She told me that he likes to hover inches above me as I'm laying in bed trying to go to sleep. Now, imagine living alone, just the whole connotation of a woman living alone. I mean, home invasions are one of my biggest fears. And to know that there was a really nasty negative entity that wanted me dead and was hovering over the top of me as I'm trying to sleep. It was just impossible. It was awful, terrifying.
You probably got more tired, more fearful, which probably even made that entity stronger potentially. How did you stop that vicious cycle of kind of feeding this entity and eventually driving it away?
Well, I knew not to feed it with fear. I knew that much at that point. And so I tried to stay calm. It was really hard. My friends were very helpful. They rallied around me and they tried to help me. I had a friend named Michael Cram who was actually training with the Catholic Church to help with exorcisms. And he would come over, he'd drop everything and come over with his friend Steve. And they would try to get rid of it. He actually did a deliverance on me at one point. Again, he told me, okay, it's gone. And I'm like, I'm still hearing it. It's not gone. I'm still hearing it. And he said, no, trust me, it's gone. It's just your imagination. And they left and I stood on my sidewalk watching their car go away. And I thought, it's still here. It's not gone. And it wasn't. It just kept happening and happening until the psychic medium was finally able to do a banishing ritual for me. So it was horrifying and terrifying.
I'm glad you wrote a book about it, but yeah, after you wrote this book, you were still having a bunch of negative things happen to you, which you just mentioned too this week. And a follow-up book was Ghost Magnet, right? You continue to have some negative entity attachments or oppression, but were you better able to handle it after this first dalliance with the Soul Collector?
Yeah, Soul Collector was really, I was not supposed to talk about it. I was not supposed to even think about it. And I was certainly not supposed to write about it because they warned me that if I did, he might come back. I sat on that story for 2 years, terrified to even tell anybody about it. But it was almost like surviving an avalanche or a devastating fire or something. You just need to talk about it. And I thought, well, maybe other people are having this same problem. So it took every bit of courage that I had. That was my first paranormal book. And I knew I'd had aunts in Indiana and old school friends and people that would probably think I was crazy once I put that book out there. But I did it. And I thought maybe it'll help somebody. I started getting a lot of emails and the book did very well. It was #1 in its genre on Amazon for months. And people were contacting me and saying, thank you for sharing this. But the ghosts were not going away. I still did not have a good plan in place for getting rid of them. And I soon learned that I didn't even have to leave my house. Like they were finding me at home. I didn't have to go anywhere. They were finding me. A year after the Soul Collector, I had another encounter. I had made the prison camp such a huge thing in my mind that it was almost like an evil entity unto itself. And I needed to dispel that fear. So we made plans to go back a year after they got rid of it. I was going to go in with a psychic medium. She was going to keep me protected. And a bunch of people from the group were going to go. The day we were going to go back, the psychic medium canceled last minute. And everybody else was already in progress of going. And I'm one of those people pleaser people that I couldn't say no to everybody else that was coming. So we all went anyways. And there were a couple psychic mediums there. I thought, I'll be okay. Wouldn't you know it, I did pick him up again.
Wow.
This time, yeah, I know, right? I mean, I thought he was gone. But apparently when they banished him, they removed him of his collection, which made him lose a lot of power. But they sent him back to the prison camps. And that's where I picked him up again. I didn't initially connect the dots because at this point I'd still had quite a few attachments. And at that point I was working with a psychic medium named Barbara Williams up in Maine. Barbara was helping me get rid of things and teaching me how to protect myself, how to shield myself, how to push my energy. And I was getting a lot better with it. But this second round with the Soul Collector, we didn't know it was a Soul Collector. We just thought it was a nasty attachment. And it did something unusual that I had never had happen before. It started jumping between me and my friend Sandy. And we started documenting it. We would write down when he left and when he showed up and the things he did. And we compared notes. It was crazy because he would leave my house at 8 p.m. and Sandy would say, yep, he came in at my house at 8 p.m. This went on for a long time. And a lot of Ghost Magnet talks about us trying to get rid of this attachment. We even took classes, paranormal protection classes that focused in Santeria. And one of the stories in the book was this woman told us to take eggs, fresh eggs, and rub them all over our bodies and then carry those eggs to a cemetery. We were supposed to leave 11 cents as an offering to the Baron of the cemetery. And we were supposed to ask him to please take the ghost from us. And then we were supposed to toss the eggs over our shoulder and then leave. As we were walking up to the cemetery, it was a little bit of a distance on a pretty busy highway. It started pouring. Sandy had, for some reason, had decided she had like the world's largest sage stick. I swear to God, this thing was like 2 feet tall. And she had lit it before we left. And so we're walking down the side of this highway in pouring rain, and she's carrying the world's largest doobie in her hand. And people were like almost running off the road looking at us. And of course, I got the giggles because that happens sometimes. I couldn't stop laughing. And we get to the cemetery, and I said, is your husband going to bail us out of jail when we get arrested for egging the cemetery? And so we did it. Came back and we still both had the attachment. So that was only one of the things that we did. Barbara Williams finally helped us, and she was the one that identified who it was. We had an investigation up in Maine, in Parsonsfield, Maine, at the Parsonsfield Seminary, which is an old boys' school, and it's very haunted. And Barbara oversees that location. So we had an investigation, and there were quite a few really talented psychic mediums there. And she put Sandy and I back to back in chairs and had those psychic mediums surrounding us. They did something as a group, and it took it away. They were all going, "Oh wow, look at that! It's eating it." It's like Sandy and I are sitting there with our eyes closed, like, "What is going on?" But it did. It worked, and it was gone. I haven't been back to the prison camp since. So
Good for you. Jeez.
Stay away from that place.
If that first book, The Soul Collector, is kind of like how you deal with oppression or an attachment or possession, however you'd like to call it, the second book, Ghost Magnet, what would you say that is? It's a bunch of tales about how you battled an ongoing battle with entities and how you were able to rid yourself of them?
Yeah, pretty much. It's all the things that we tried to remove ghosts and to stop collecting them to begin with, and a lot of just terrifying stories. And some of them are funny, like the one with the sage stick and the cemetery. And some of them are terrifying. I mean, the book opens up with, I picked up a shadow demon at Gettysburg. and it was going to kill me as soon as it got dark, and I was driving home by myself from Gettysburg.
Oh my God.
So that's what it starts off with. And I had no cell service, so I couldn't get a hold of, I now have a shaman friend, Michael Robichaud, who helps me constantly getting rid of nasty things. And I swear, I told him the other day, I said, Michael, if you weren't a part of my life, I'd be sitting in a rubber room right now. Because this stuff it's been horrifying. It's been terrifying. Everything I've tried to do has been somewhat effective. And I've written 2 books on paranormal protection. So I'm very well versed on what normal people can do to get rid of ghosts. But none of this really works for me. I mean, I've gotten a little bit better with pushing my energy and shielding and working with my spirit guides, but not to the point where I can get rid of the really nasty ones. I rely on Michael for that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the books we're going to talk about is Bones in the Basement, which I just listened to on Audible, which I have a commercial done in the middle of this about Audible, a free trial with AON podcast where they can actually listen to your book as it was one of the credits. But, that place, the S.K. Pierce Mansion, had a lot of portals in it. Are you kind of like a human portal? How do you describe yourself where entities kind of come, see you, and come and enter? And do they come but you have to force them out? A portal, I guess, so they can come and go on their own free will. But you're just kind of, I guess, a beacon maybe, or I'm trying to classify.
The best that I could, I've asked a lot of people and nobody really has a concise answer for me because nobody really knows. But the closest that I've come that resonated with me is someone said that I am wide open. I beam so bright, I beam up into the astral plane, and that's where they find me. So that's why I can be sitting at my home on a Tuesday evening watching TV and all of a sudden have a ghost pop in. They said they're finding me on the astral plane.
Do you get paranoid after a while? Are you like a cat might get skittish or something? Are you just kind of have dealt with it and there's no fear and you deal with it as it comes?
I really don't have as much fear anymore, mostly because I know that Michael will help me if I get something bad. And for a while there, yes, I backed off of all investigations. People would ask me to come check out their home to see if they have a ghost. And I was like, no way. I go in there, your ghost is going to follow me home. So I went for a long period where I didn't investigate. And I was still picking up attachments, even if I didn't go anywhere. I stopped, watching scary movies and paranormal shows, anything that would put my mind in that frame. And it didn't help. I was still getting them. So I thought, I'm a researcher. I'm a paranormal investigator, and this is what I do. And I write about it. So I kind of just got mad. And I said, I'm going to go out and do this anyways. I would warn Michael that if I was going somewhere, he would send his spirit guides to help keep me protected. But that's what I do. I go into the dangerous places and I write about it so that other people are aware of what's going on.
Hey, everybody. This is your paranormal podcast pal, Bob Heskey. Every night I like to listen to videos on YouTube. But lately, with COVID, civil unrest, market volatility, politics, conspiracy theories, I just want to tune out. That's why I like Audible. What's Audible, you say? Audible is the leading provider of spoken word entertainment and audio books, including some great horror and paranormal titles like A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay, If It Bleeds by Stephen King, and The Boatman's Daughter by Andy Davidson.
This place is cursed.
Each month, members get 1 credit to pick any title, plus 2 Audible originals from a monthly selection, access to daily news digests if you actually want to hear the news, as well as guided meditation programs. Hey, we all need a little Zen now and again. And Audible is oh so easy. You can download titles and listen offline, anytime, anywhere, on any device. The app is free and can be installed in your smartphone or tablet. You can even listen across devices without losing your spot. How cool is that? If you can't decide what to listen to, no problem. You can keep your credits for up to a year and binge on your favorite series later on. So, here's the rub. The Afraid of Nothing podcast is stoked to partner with the audio bookworms at Audible to offer you a free 30-day trial membership. Just follow the link in the show notes, audibletrial.com/AON podcast.
Puedes repetir eso, por favor.
That's audibletrial.com/AON AON, all caps, podcast, lowercase. Full disclosure, I get a commission for everyone who signs up using that URL. But you get to try it for 30 days without a commitment. Using our custom URL doesn't cost you a penny and helps out the show if you do sign up. Nothing scary about that. So escape reality and pick up a book, an audio book, and listen to what's out there. Go to audibletrial.com/AON podcast after listening to the show. So you know when ghosts come. Do you help them when these entities come to you? Do you tend to just send them away? Are you able to send them into the light? Are you able to help them? Or do they just come and just try to suck your energy and you just have to like close the door on them? What's the interaction you typically have with a lot of these entities?
A little of both. I am capable of crossing them over. If they're willing to go, I have sent many of them into the light. Such a beautiful feeling. When it happens, I just get a cold chill head to toe, and I feel so jubilant afterwards. But some of the ones that I get in, they want to cross over, but they have a message or they have something they need to do, and I can't hear them talking to me. Sometimes I can get the overall general gist of what they want. I'm not that in tune with my abilities yet that I can actually communicate back and forth with them.
So it's kind of like a bad EVP, where you're trying to figure out what it's saying, or
Yeah, exactly. But I do get a fair amount that just want to suck energy from me. This is kind of interesting, and other people might want to know about this. I haven't talked about it too much, but when they're pulling energy from me, I feel a vibration in my body. Mostly it's in my chest or my torso. It feels like an internal vibration, like I'm leaning up against a washing machine or something like that. And it's crazy when I feel it. Usually it's right when I'm going to bed. That seems to be when they jump on me the most. And I have learned from practice how to shield and push my energy outwards. And I know when I'm effective because I can make that vibration stop. And now they're not pulling energy from me. So, and it's something you just have to learn how to do and work with. But it's a good validation. I have actually kept ghosts around so that I can kind of test myself on them, learning how to push my energy.
Do you ever say to a ghost, hey, why do all you guys come to me? Do you ever use any of them to say, what is the deal? Are the ghosts the ones that tell you that I know you've had shamans and other people, but do the ghosts ever explain to you why they're drawn to you, or have you ever had that interaction?
No, and believe me, I've asked time and time and time again. No, I won't get any kind of answer from them because I don't think they want me to know. It's like, you're my battery. Why would I tell you how I got here? So no, I've asked multiple times.
One of your most recent books is When Ghosts Are Near. So you obviously can tell when ghosts are near because you are hammered all the time by them. But you wrote a book called When Ghosts Are Near to help others determine when spirits are around that they may not be aware of. Do you mind talking a little bit about that book and why you wrote it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as I've been interacting with people over the years, I've learned that mediums and sensitives feel ghosts differently. Like I hear them being clairaudient, but like my friend Sandy, the way she feels them is she gets a sensation in her scalp, almost like her scalp is crawling. And she's learned to differentiate between male and female, young and old, by where on her scalp it tingles. Another friend gets the pit of her stomach gets really tight. Other people get cold chills. Some people actually hear voices speaking to them. It just runs the gambit. Some people smell things that aren't there. So I decided to put out an all points bulletin on Facebook and asked all my paranormal contacts how they feel ghosts and what is their most profound experience. I ended up getting 99 stories, and some of them are quite terrifying. That's very scary, but also it's enlightening because they talk about how they knew a ghost was near. And there's so many people out there that suspect they think they know when a ghost is near, but they're not confident. They don't have anybody to validate for them like I had with Sandy, and they're not 100% sure. So I thought maybe this will be helpful for them so that they can come to more of a conclusive decision on whether they want to expand their abilities or learn how to protect themselves, which, I always recommend do that first before you start build on those abilities. Take care of worst case scenario first. How am I going to get rid of something if it follows me home?
Yeah, so when ghosts are near, is that 99 different psychics and mediums and shamans, or are they lay people that are kind of maybe more just practicing ghost hunters that have shared stories, or was it mostly people that are like you, that are sensitive, that shared their stories?
It was all across the board. It was everything. And I do have a section in there, advice from experienced psychic mediums. So quite a few people gave me some advice that they have for people that are expanding their abilities. But it's everything from people that really don't even claim to be sensitive, but have had experiences, to people that are full-blown psychic mediums.
Now, was there one story that just surprised you and really stuck with you after doing all the research?
Oh my, there's so many stories in there. Nothing really all that surprising. I don't know, one that comes to my mind is how different people feel things. I have a friend named Tammy who's a sensitive, and she walked into an investigation at a library, and she immediately started feeling a cold chill near her knees and thighs. And normally when she feels ghosts, it's up higher. So she knew that since it was so low, it was probably a child. Someone was there with a K2 meter that measures electromagnetic energy. When they put it at her head, it did nothing. And as they got down to the point where she was feeling it, then it started flashing up to red. So it was just interesting to me how she feels it that way. I've never had that experience. So that's just one story. There's so many of them in there. Most of them are scary. That one's really not scary. It's more informational.
Yeah, one of the interviews I did, it is actually the most popular episode I did, like probably 2 times more popular than any of the other ones. It was about connecting with your pet on the other side. It's a medium named Rob Guttrow, which kind of what you just talked about when ghosts are near. He counsels on people on how to tell when their pets passed, how they try to communicate with them. And it was like immensely popular. It's cats as well, but mostly the canine version of your when ghosts are near. And it always blows my mind of the roughly 40 episodes I've done that one, because people love pets so much, that's the one that's like double all the other ones that I've done, which is crazy.
There are pet stories in my book as well. That's quite a few people had pet experiences of their pets coming back.
Oh, that's great. Let's talk real briefly about the protection, because you said you've written a couple books on protection. Give us what those books are and some of the main things are beyond just having a Doobie Brothers-sized piece of sage walking around with. What are your 2 books, and what are some of the takeaways?
Well, I used to teach a Paranormal 101 class in Gardner, Massachusetts, right down the road from you.
Yeah.
At Terrapin Traders is where I taught it for like 2 years. And I would research a topic and we would all get together. And it was great because we brought in a lot of people who were out there with paranormal abilities and had nobody to work with. And we all worked together. So I took those class notes and I put those into a book called Dark and Scary Things, A Sensitive's Guide for Protection. And in that book, I really talk about everything. It's an A to Z paranormal dictionary, pretty much. I mean, talks about what a spirit guide is, what karma is, what astral projecting is, but it also goes deeply into paranormal protection. And I think really one of the biggest things about paranormal protection is infusing everything you do with the belief that it's working. So the minute you start casting doubt on something, you tear it apart and it's no longer effective. So just depending on what you use, some people can say a prayer before they go into an investigation, and that keeps them protected. Or they'll carry a medallion or some kind of religious icon with them. Or other people will carry protection stones, and that makes them feel safe and it keeps them protected.
Yeah, I was going to ask, can you name a couple of the more popular or most powerful crystals that you would recommend?
Yeah, I love black tourmaline. That's really my go-to.
Think of that, yeah.
Yeah,
yeah. That's
black.
Is that hard to get a hold of, Joni? Is that hard to get tourmaline, black tourmaline? No. Okay.
You can get it at any metaphysical shop, or you can even get it online. But I also like hematite because it's also grounding. So I went through a phase where I made a lot of protection bracelets, and I was selling them and giving them away and stuff because it really helped. And if I went anywhere, I always had that with me. There was a long point in time, Michael Cram gave me a crucifix that was blessed by a priest. And I'm not Catholic, but And I'm not really overly religious, more spiritual than religious, but I wore that crucifix for 2-3 years until it was like crusting apart on my neck, because I felt that it was going to help keep me safe from another soul collector or something. In recent years, I really work with grounding and shielding. I feel like that's the most important thing anybody that is into the paranormal and is sensitive should do. They should learn how to ground their body of excess energy and then learn how to put up a bubble, a shield around themselves to stay protected. You know, when you go on investigations, some things you should never do is ask them to touch you, because what you're doing is inviting them inside your auric shield, and that's easier for them to attach once they do that. Or, God forbid, I tell them they can use your energy, because that's like an invitation to come home with you.
When I was at the Conjuring House a couple months ago, the team I was with, one of the big things was they felt like the land was more haunted than the actual house. And so it was really important to ground yourself as soon as you got out of the car, so grounding was very important with that.
Yeah.
And then shielding, of course, and then protection as you left. Definitely.
Yeah.
And that is the end of part 1 with our interview with Joni Mayhan. In part 2, we talk about one of her perhaps most popular books, Bones in the Basement. It's about the S.K. Pierce haunting, very near and dear to me and right down the street. We also talk about Joni and her location in Indiana called New Harmony, Indiana, and what's kind of going on there, and a bunch of other cool stuff. So check out part 2. And in the meantime, thank you for listening and stay scared.
You've been listening to the Afraid of Nothing podcast. Please subscribe and like us on Facebook. Until next time, stay scared.
Hey, you're still here? Great. Then why not listen to another episode? Visit AfraidOfNothingPodcast.com to peruse all the shows. That's AfraidOfNothingPodcast.com. And while you're there, click the coffee cup icon to buy me a coffee and leave a review. I'll give you a shout out in an upcoming episode, and the world will know how swell you are.